Thank you. Good to see you.
Thank you all very much for being here. Senator Dorgan, Senator Murkowski, Mr. Leader, our president of our tribal groups here.
Senator Begich over here.
Oh, Senator Begich, hey, how do you do? Good to see you. Real pleasure. I'm a fan of your whole family, may I say. So thank you very much for being here. And Tom Cole is, well, no, not yet? Okay. I was walking down the street one day and my cell phone rang, and it was a wonderful voice of Senator Dorgan, who started explaining his commitment to this program, how he wanted to start something. And I get a lot of these calls here at the Aspen Institute, you know, people want to do things. But this one really hit home, and Elliot Gerson, who I saw here a moment ago, and others, it fit right into what we love to do here, which is transcend all the partisan politics and deal with things that directly affect people in this country. And there are a lot of things that get enough attention in this world. They're more, at any given moment in this town, there's a panel about either climate change or K through 12 education going on every hour, usually moderated by me. But it is good to give attention to something that's not getting nearly enough attention. And it's not only the Native American plight, but the youth of Native America, and also the suicide epidemic, which I didn't realize until the chief told me that affects all Native Americans, but not just the youth. The fact that Senator Dorgan wanted to do this, and it ties into our family programs. I know Ann Mosley is here, and the things we're trying to do for to help family economic security in a time when this country is going through bad economic crisis. This really struck close to my heart. So I would just like to say thank you to Senator Dorgan as I turn it over to him. Senator Dorgan, I think 40 years in public service, but represents what is and could still be the best of what this town is all about, which is people actually doing public service rather than seeing how they can score political points. We go up and down ever since Ben Franklin and John Adams had their first fight in that realm in this town. But you stand for everything that's good about this town, whether it's on energy, which has been one of your passions and will continue to be a passion, or on American Indians. So thank you so much, Senator.
Well, Walter, thank you, and especially thanks to all of you who've come today to be a part of this kickoff for a new project, a new organization. I'm really pleased, and we have a couple
Congressman Cole, do we have, Tom?
Is Congressman Cole in the back?
Yeah.
Yes, huh?
Yeah, great. We have
a seat up here, Congressman.
It's like a Baptist church. If you come late, you have to sit in the front.
And join the choir, I might add. We've got a lot of distinguished folks here, and wanted to introduce some of them. But let me describe to you the vision I had for what brings us here today. When I elected not to seek another term in the Senate, it was 14 months ago, I had funds in my campaign account that I had raised, and the question is, what do you do with that money? And as you might imagine, I had a lot of advice from a lot of people calling me about what I should do with that money. And I decided that I wanted to declare $1 million of that money as excess campaign funds, and use with that $1 million the opportunity to build an organization to invest in the lives of Native American youth. Now, thank you. Now, there's a special reason for that. I don't know what's in second or third place in most people's lives, but I know what's in first place. Their kids. If it's not, there's something dramatically wrong with their lives. And so, as I began with Lisa Murkowski and others and Senator Begich to look at what was going on with respect to the needs of the first Americans, one of the things that became clear to me is we had a lot of issues and challenges, and a lot of the tribal governments in this country worked valiantly to address them, but didn't have the resources and didn't have necessarily the commitment from the agencies, funding commitments and other things. And the thing that particularly impressed me and continued to nag at me was the issue faced by Native American youth, targeted in some reservations by Mexican drug cartels, targeted for gangs, youth suicide rates that are 3.5 times the national average, in some areas 10 times the national average, and so many different issues. And I recall one day when I went to the floor of the Senate after I had been on the phone most of the morning, just about a young girl named Avis Littlewind. And I called and asked her remaining relatives if I could speak about her on the floor of the Senate, and they said yes. She was 14 years old. She had very serious problems. She lay in a fetal position for 90 days in her bed, and then got up and took her life one morning. Her sister had taken her life 2 years prior. Her father had taken his life. Her mother had substance abuse issues. And this little girl, for 90 days, just fell through the cracks. Nobody asked, where's Avis Littlewind? So I got on a plane and went to the reservation. I talked to her schoolmates in school, talked to her teachers, talked to the tribal authorities, talked to everybody to try to figure out how is it that one little 14-year-old girl falls through the cracks. And there wasn't really an answer, unfortunately. But just from that one instance, I began asking a lot of questions about, yes, teen suicide, but so many other issues. And what I discovered is pretty unbelievable. And I discovered that by reaching out to tribal chairmen and tribal council members and parents and others. And it just occurred to me as I was thinking, what should I do with this money? What I really ought to do is invest this money in trying to improve the lives and save the lives of Native American youth. And that's why we are putting together a Center for Native American Youth. Now, there are a lot of issues that overlay all of these things. I told Jefferson Keel about Vine Deloria, who wrote about the anthropologist who asked an Indian one day, what did you call America before the white man came? And the Indian said, we called it ours. Ours. And that shadow of some couple of centuries of all of the issues and the struggles and the treaties, the trust responsibilities, all of the other issues that overlay all of that, and then finally come to rest, yes, with elders, but especially with children who are the most vulnerable. And so the question is, what do we do as a country about that? Do we ignore it, or do we decide we care and we're going to do something about it? And that's what this center is all about. This center is not going to fix everything. It's just one more contribution in an effort to find best practices, to do youth summits, to reach out to schools, to try to study and evaluate what better things can we do to save lives, to make lives better with Native American youth. They were the first Americans, of course, should not have second-class health care, second-class housing, or second-class education, but it all too often is the case. And this is not some mysterious illness for which we don't know the cure. We know what causes this, and we, if we put our minds to it, can figure out how to fix it. So this is a program that, that I feel very strongly about. I have retired from public service after 12 statewide campaigns and 40 years, but I have not retired from life. I'm doing a lot of things, and one of the most important things, I think, begins today with this program. I do want to mention to you, there are a lot of people who have helped me in the last couple of months. Allison Binney, current staff director, but soon to be former staff director of the Indian Affairs Committee. Allison has been enormously helpful in all of these issues, and will be leaving government, I believe, and maybe I shouldn't be making this formal announcement, but but when she does, she's also going to serve on the board of this organization.
Thank you.
Aaron Bailey, who played such an important role in getting the Indian Health Care Improvement Act completed. Justin Chardon, who's been in the back, been helping us put together this, and we'll be hiring some people. But the point is, we've come together here, I think, to do something really important, and I appreciate very much all of you coming to participate with us. My Indian name, I was given an Indian name by the Sioux tribe in like a 3 or 4 hour ceremony one day. It is Shante Unwiaka, which means thinks with his heart. And I really believe with all my heart that if we just keep trying, just keep dedicating ourselves, just keep doing things, that will make a difference. And if we can make a difference in children's lives, then we've made a difference in something very, very important for the future. So we have some very distinguished people here, and what we'd like to do, with Walter's permission, is to just make this very informal. But there are some people I want to call on, other people I just want to introduce. Anybody who wants to say anything, we're very happy. We've got a period of about an hour for this program. very happy to hear you, but I want to call, first if I could, I will call my colleagues, but I want to call on Jefferson Keel, who has also agreed to serve on the board of this organization. He's the president of the National Congress of American Indians and somebody who also makes a very big difference on these issues. Jefferson, thank you for being here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you, Senator, and distinguished guests, senators, congressmen. Thank you for being here. This is an important day, not just for me personally, but for Indian country and for the country as a whole. We talk about suicide prevention. This is an effort that is finally coming together. We're not just talking about it. Senator Dorgan is doing something about it. It's one thing to talk about the issues that confront us. When we talk about suicide, suicide is the end of the road. That is the final chapter. That is the result of the failure of all the other things that have gone wrong in a person's life. That final end, suicide, is the loss of hope. That represents the complete loss of hope. There's no other way out. We can do something about it. We've got social workers, we've got experts, we've got all the people in the country who know how to confront these issues and talk to us and tell us those things. We need the resources in Indian country to help us confront this problem. Senator Dorgan is finally doing something about it, and I'm honored to be part of this, this movement. This is something that's, when I was asked if I might be interested, I was excited. I didn't want to jump up and down. I did, no one could see me. But it's something that represents, for our people, hope. That loss of hope that I mentioned just before, that's something that we can do something about. We can take a step forward now. We can bring the resources together to bear on confronting the problem, how do we deal with it, and then look forward toward bringing partnerships from the tribal governments, tribal communities, organizations, and all the other things that we need to do to confront this problem. And I'm honored to be a part of this today. Thank you, Senator, for all of your work. Thank you.
Jefferson, thank you very much. I also wanted to mention, I did not, Pam Gullison, who's somewhere here, played a very significant role in helping me prepare the early portions of developing this program. So Pam Gullison, thank you very much.
There she is.
Senator Lisa, Pam, there's Pam back there. Thank you, Pam. Senator Lisa Murkowski, who was vice chairman of the Indian Affairs Committee, and we worked together very closely. She, I think, perhaps as much as anybody I've ever dealt with, works so hard on these issues for Native Americans. Lisa, thank you for being here.
Byron, I want to acknowledge you, but I have to tell you, the name that you have been given as a member, an adopted member of the Sioux tribe, one who thinks with his heart, for an elected official to be given that honor and that recognition is really, really quite impressive. And you do. And that is why I am so honored to be working with you as you focus on these issues that I think have so much meaning to your constituents, certainly to my constituents. We talk about suicide rates. Unfortunately, Alaska Native suicide rates beat them all. And our statistics are such that it is those that are between 15 and 24 that suffer the highest rates. And our young men are 4 times higher than any others. And the numbers just keep piling on. But again, these aren't just statistics. These are the Avis little ones. These are those who have been left behind. You talk about our federal policies, no child left behind. Well, what we have done, I think, with so many of America's first peoples, they are out of sight, out of mind. And particularly at a time when we're faced with budget crunches and hits, I mean, it's going to be tough. The out of sight, out of mind policy is just not going to help these young people who need help. We've been going over all the old statistics, and you would like to think that with all the awareness, all the spotlight that's being shown on things, that we would see some improvement. We're not seeing that level of improvement, and unfortunately, some of our statistics, at least in Alaska, are old. This Sunday, in our Anchorage daily newspaper, the newspaper of largest circulation, the whole editorial page is dedicated to articles about how we prevent youth suicides. We've got 2 young men that are racing in what's called the Iron Dog. This is not the Iditarod where you have the dog sleds. These are the snow machines or snowmobiles, whatever it is you guys call them. But they go about 1,000 miles, 1,100 miles. In fact, the race had to be stopped because the ground storms were so bad they couldn't see as far ahead as Jefferson is to me. But 2 young men who are using this race as an opportunity to spotlight the issue of Native youth suicide in our state. And one young man starts off by saying, for a while, it was pretty normal to be going to funerals for suicide. I lost my uncle, my brother, close friends in high school, after high school, my great-great-grandpa. We had a youth suicide conference out in Bethel in October, and to hear a high school student say, it's just normal to see suicides in our community. Byron, we've got to change that. Let's work together. Thank you.
Bravo, Senator. Thank you.
Let me also mention that Lisa Murkowski was one of the first persons to agree to serve on the board as well. So Lisa, thank you very much. Senator Begich is with us. If I might call on Senator Begich.
Thank you very much, Byron. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. Let me, I'm only 2 years into the Senate, but Byron ran on the Democratic Caucus, the Policy Committee. So every Thursday we'd come in and it would be an opportunity to, as I would say, get educated on some topic or some issue. When he left the Senate, I was thinking to myself, what is he going to do out there? What's his task? What's his view of and how he's going to handle it? Once again, it's a Monday, but I'm here getting educated again. And Byron, I want to say to you and to Walter, to the Aspen Institute, there is no bigger question, especially in rural Alaska. I think Senator Murkowski laid out so many. We can go through the data points in Alaska, and they're just appalling to hear, or the stories that were just laid out. What I'm hopeful for, and you know me, when I like to go to events like this and you give me a microphone, it's the challenge that you have placed upon yourself to do this, is how do we reach and achieve these statistics that in Alaska are going the wrong direction? How do we reverse them? And it's not just about the end product, as you said, the suicide, what could happen. It's everything ahead of it. How do we utilize the great resources of this country, or in our state, the resources we have to try to blunt this and do what we can? Maybe economic opportunities for young people in their rural communities. In our case, in some cases, hundreds and hundreds of miles away from any hub area. Or how do we deal with an education system that in Alaska is also far-flung? And how do we make sure these kids have true hope and opportunity? So from someone who's now serving in the Senate, I'm going to be looking toward your work here and the Institute's work in helping us craft the right policies to figure out, not at the end when someone commits suicide, what do we do, but at the beginning to ensure that we break that cycle. I think Senator Murkowski, that article was amazing, what they listed there, and the cycle that has now become, so some people in Alaska, young people, immune to it. It just is the way of life, which is unacceptable. So I'm very excited to be here today. You can count on me to do whatever I can to help your efforts. And we're going to lean on you, to look to you to help us figure out what the right direction is. And in these very tight budget times that we have, how to utilize those resources to complement the work you're doing and others are doing across this country. So I thank you for taking up the challenge. I will now know there is an opportunity to have that policy opportunity to be educated on something on a regular basis, so I thank you for that. Thank you for your efforts.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Yes, Congressman Cole, if you would say a word.
What a wonderful name, Senator. Most of our constituents think we think with other parts of our name. So I'm pretty impressed with that. But it's a great privilege to be here for a variety of reasons. I think that
it's trite but true. The first Americans are the last Americans in so many of these disturbing categories across the board. And a lot of our focus appropriately is particularly on children on reservations that have enormous problems and challenges, unlike probably any other group of Americans face. But you know, we have another group of American youth that are not on reservations. Only about 1 out of 6 Native American kids goes to an Indian school, quote unquote. And about 5 out of 6 are someplace else in the public school system. And if they're not marginalized the way they are on reservations, they're homogenized someplace else. And each one of those messages, your culture really doesn't matter. It either doesn't matter because you're out of the American mainstream, or it doesn't matter because we're going to make you part of the American mainstream by stripping you of who and what you are and what the values that your people and your cultures and your history and your tradition bring. And that's a devastating message. In Oklahoma, we deal probably with that end of it more than the other. We don't have any reservations, but we have 1 out of every 5 Native American kids that's in public school is an Oklahoman. And 1 out of every 6 Native American Native Americans that are in public schools is an Oklahoma kid someplace. And they're very much at risk of losing sometimes where they're at. That's why I appreciate so much what Lieutenant Governor Keel, and we're fellow Chickasaws, so you know, what our tribe has done to try and keep that culture alive, both inside, everything from running trio programs to working with the local school systems to doing some pretty non-traditional things. Senator, I appreciate what you're doing here. And frankly, I appreciate your whole career. Long before I was in Washington, I watched what you were doing in Native American issues when it wasn't particularly cool. And I got to tell you, you've certainly finished with a flourish. These last few years have been magnificent across the board. And you know, everything from funding issues to you name it. And I'm very happy to see my friend Senator Murkowski here. These issues are preeminently not partisan issues to me. They are bipartisan issues. And the solutions are always bipartisan. If significant legislation is going to happen, it's going to happen in a bipartisan sense. If significant funding is going to take place, it's going to take bipartisan cooperation. Nobody has been more bipartisan than Senator Dorgan on these issues across the board, and not just when it was popular, when the spotlight was on, but frankly, when it wasn't easy and people weren't paying attention. And he's bucked his own party as much as he's bucked the other party, just for the right reasons and to move legislation in the right way. So it's a great honor, and I can't think of a better place, Walter, than having it here at the Aspen Institute. Again, I think this is one of the most valuable institutions in this town. It does so much good work across the board. So it's pretty exciting to be here at the launch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Congressman.
Thank you very much. Let me mention a couple of other people and invite some folks if you want to say a few words. And I also want to mention Joe Urschel's in the back of the room. Joe is a very skilled writer and helped us do some writing as we were putting together brochures and so on. We have Larry EchoHawk, who is the Assistant Secretary of Indian Affairs. Larry does a terrific job.
Hey.
And I'm gonna come back and see if you want to say a word. But I want to Yvette Roubideaux is right over here. Yvette is the Director of the Indian Health Service. Likely she's taken on a big challenge. She and I have had lots of discussions about it, and she's working very hard to try to address the issues that we've talked about with respect to health care. Lillian Sparks is the Commissioner of the Administration of Native Americans, right over here.
Yeah.
And Pam Hyde is the Administrator of Substance Abuse and Mental Health, or what we call SAMHSA. Rick West is
at
here.
HHS.
At HHS, I'm sorry. Rick West is here, who runs the Indian Museum here in town. And Patty Talahangva, where are you, Patty? Patty's on the board as well, as is Rick. And there are a couple of youth members of the board who are here as well. Colorado's Mangus, where are you, Colorado's? Right over here. Colorado's has testified a couple times before our committee in the Senate. And Megan Gregory. Megan, where are you sitting? Both right back over there. Both of them are youth members on the board. But I wanted to make sure, and I likely have missed some, if so, I'm sorry. You're welcome to say a few words. Mr. Secretary, would you like to say a word or two?
Thank you. First of all, I just want to commend Senator Dorgan and also the Aspen Institute for joining together to create this center and move forward. Earlier this afternoon, I was at the National Congress of American Indian gathering, and Senator Dorgan spoke and announced the center and He got a standing ovation. What generosity to donate $1 million and the credibility that he carries in Indian country. That's very significant. There are a lot of vexing problems out there in Indian country that several people in this room are responsible as a part of the federal government for addressing. And in my younger years, I was a prosecuting attorney. And I had many dates in court where I saw young people come in, oftentimes shackled, receive their sentence, and go off to prison. With the problems that we're having in Indian country, we are seeing those very high crime rates. It's because of substance abuse, it's because of poverty, it's because of abuse and neglect that's occurring. There are a lot of things that are happening that are taking our young people from our communities. We have to make those communities safe, and through bipartisan effort in recent years, the Congress has given a lot of funding to enhance our criminal justice system in Indian country. And that needs to be done. And I've been out there speaking several times, and I say, this is important work, what we have to do. But at the end of every one of those presentations, I've made a comment that we cannot arrest ourselves out of this problem. What we've got to do is go back and make our communities healthy. And, the youth need to have a life of prosperity and promise before them. And this is what I think the Senator is all about, is paying attention to our youth and bringing much needed resources to bear on this problem. And Senator Dorgan, I just pledge for the Indian Affairs and the Department of Interior that we will be there to collaborate with you to help you move forward on this agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Dr. Yvette Roubideaux, the Director of the Indian Health Service. And Senator Dorgan, thank you so much. Thank you for caring about Indian people and especially caring about Indian youth. I know that you have that passion for them. I've seen it, and I'm just so grateful for your efforts here in making this a focus of your great work to come. To the Aspen Institute, thank you also so much for being a partner in this effort. The Indian Health Service has a lot to do to change and improve, and we've been working very hard to do that. But as I go around the country and talk with tribes, youth is a huge topic. Nothing's more important than our youth because they're our future, and we've got to do everything we can to help them. If I could solve all the problems myself in the Indian Health Service, I would do that, but unfortunately, the problems that our youth face are going to require all of our efforts, and they're going to require all of our partnerships and require some innovative thinking, some challenging thinking, some looking for some new solutions to trying to help our youth, but nothing could be more important for us to help our youth achieve all that they want to be. I had a meeting with a delegation from Alaska, and they had a young girl with them. And at the end of the meeting, the mother kind of nudged the young girl. She was about 13 years old and said, "Tell Dr. Roubideaux what you wanted to tell her." And she got all shy and she didn't want to say anything. And so her mother relayed the story that her daughter was thinking of becoming a health professional because she had several friends who were thinking about suicide. And she single-handedly stayed up all night with those friends to prevent them from committing suicide, and that she'd sort of become this little helper to all the kids in her school, and was sort of performing this role. And I thought, it is just so sad that our children are in the role of trying to help each other like that. But then again, I was just so grateful for this young girl who was willing to help her friends and to have that kind of commitment, and even more excited that she wanted to be a health professional. And so I said, maybe one day you'll be the director of the Indian Health Service like me. I was your age once before. And she looked at me and she got the biggest smile on her face. And I was like, see, you can do it. And so if we can give the kids hope, if we can give our youth a bright future, if we can all work together, I really think that we can make an impact. And so whatever we can do as the Indian Health Service to partner with you in your efforts, please, please see our willingness and our great eagerness, actually, to work in partnership with you.
Yvette,
So,
thank you
very much.
Thank you. Colorados, do you want to say a word? Colorado's Mangus is someone who's been traveling and working with Indian youth in high schools around the country, and as I said, he's testified a couple of times before our committee on some of these issues. Colorados, welcome.
Thank you for having us, or me, here today. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Colorados Mangus. I come from the Mescalero Apache tribe in New Mexico. Suicide is something that's very important to me and a lot of the people back home on my reservation. We did have a rash of suicides about a year ago, and we lost a lot of important people that were friends to mostly the whole community. We lost a young man who was a fire and rescue worker, and that's somebody that none of us thought would take his own life. So that just goes to tell everybody that anybody is possible of taking their own life. Whether they're an important person or not an important person, everybody has that risk of taking their own life. And so now I do everything I can to prevent suicide back home and across Indian country, because a lot of the people that did take their lives was some of my friends, some of my family's friends, important people to our community. So I always think about these people, thinking that maybe one of them had the cure for cancer, maybe the next one to be the president of the United States, be the president of our tribe. Everybody comes into the world with a purpose. The Lord gives each of us a purpose, and by taking your life, you lose that purpose, and that purpose is lost to the world. America is filled with a lot of great people, but the people that I believe are the most important are the American Indians, people that were here first and that need help. We just kind of been pushed to the side throughout the centuries and said, well, we'll help you, but nothing's not going to get done for a while. We'll help you, but it's going to take a while. I'm here to tell people that we are doing something for American Indians and Alaskan Natives now. We are taking this step forward. Many people don't believe that DC is doing anything for the Native Americans, but I stand here today to tell you and everybody else across the nation that we are. If we weren't doing nothing, I wouldn't be standing here in my regalia. We wouldn't have Native American people at this meeting. We wouldn't have a center for Native American youth. If it wasn't for people like Senator Dorgan, we would just be pushed to the side more. We'd be pushed down the road, and finally at the end of everything, we'd be forgotten. So I thank you, Senator, for doing everything that you can to help the Native American youth, because it is a big thing, and youth are our future. That's why we have to do everything we can to prevent them from taking their own life. If we don't, then who will? So that's why I thank you, Senator. And if you need anything from the youth or from anybody, we're here for you, and we'll do everything that we can to support you and the Center for Native American Youth. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Colorados.
I don't know who wants to follow that, but Pam and Lillian, there's some others. Would you wish to say a word?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Mr. Isaacson, and all the other folks who are here to support this effort. This is a terrific opportunity, and it's a terrific opportunity, frankly, for a public-private partnership, because I think, as you well know, SAMHSA has selected prevention as its primary initiative, and prevention of suicide is one of those issues. There's a person every 15 minutes in this country who takes their life, and for Native American youth between 15 and 24, it's the second leading cause of death, and that's just unacceptable. So I think a lot of people in this room may know that Secretary Sebelius and Secretary Gates last September kicked off the National Action Alliance for Suicide Prevention, and one of the first 3 subgroups they picked to focus on was Native Americans. And Yvette Roubideaux and Mr. EchoHawk are co-chairing that subcommittee. That is a public-private partnership, and I think they and Thar Help stand ready to support and work with you at the center. I told the Senator and Mr. Isaacson ahead of time that If you haven't seen the President's 2012 budget, and it is a proposal, so it needs to be acted on, but there actually is a $50 million new program for behavioral health tribal prevention grant. That is because we heard tribes in all of our consultations, and the Secretary has responded, and President has responded, but we heard that substance abuse and suicide were two of the biggest issues that tribes wanted to deal with, and that in fact what they wanted was their money directly, not through some other process and not through some competitive process. So this is a tremendous opportunity for a public program, but also a private program outside of government. I think the connections can be hugely strong. So anything we can do to help you, and anything we can be there for all of you who want to try to address this issue, we want to try to address it as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bravo.
Thank you, Senator Dorgan and Mr. Isaacson, for coming together and shining a light on such an incredibly important issue for Indian country. The Administration for Native Americans is located within the Administration for Children and Families at the Department of Health and Human Services. So obviously this is of high importance for us as we begin to look at how we can come up with solutions and recommendations on meeting our most vulnerable populations and meeting our most sacred population as well, which is our children. I want to say that part of my role is to serve as the chair of the Interdepartmental Council for Native American Affairs, and Pam and Dr. Roubideaux are also on that council, and we hear from all of the agencies within HHS about what some of the cross-cutting issues are, and youth suicide prevention comes up time and time again. And so we know that we don't have all the answers at HHS, and that we need to partner and collaborate outside of the department and outside of the federal government to learn about what strategies are working and what is that we could be doing to effectively serve our community. So we're looking forward to working with Senator Dorgan and with the Aspen Institute and with everyone in this room to learn about what is effective in your communities and how we can continue to support that, and what other things we need to be thinking about and considering as we move forward within the Department of Health and Human Services. So thanks again for paying attention to an issue that not everyone always wants to focus on, and we appreciate your efforts and look forward to partnering with you.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to also say that there's a man named Elliot in the back of the room who ought to wave, because he makes things happen.
Elliot Gerson, who
He makes things happen here at the Aspen Institute, and it's been very, very helpful. Elliot,
you discovered that, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I discovered that very quickly. I was in charge of putting the $1 million in and trying to help create this program. I wasn't in charge of the air conditioning.
Terry, can we
but
crank
let
it
me
up?
just say this: we've come towards the end of this program. I know my colleagues have to get back to the Hill. Let me say that we've been sitting here in this room, kind of crowded, a little bit warm, and we're talking about things that can kind of bring you down a bit. But that's not what this is about. I mean, you have to talk about what's happening and what's real in order to understand what you have to do to fix it. This is about lifting people up. This is about giving people hope. It's about investing in young lives, and it's about saying to those kids out there, one way or another, if you feel that things are hopeless, they're not. If you feel that you're helpless, you're not. There are people that care about you and want to make a significant difference in your life. I mean, that's what this is about. So I know we're going to talk about things that are kind of, we're worried and we're disappointed, and we see problems that are so serious. But I also want to understand that we just get out of bed in the morning. Anything that's possible to most human beings is possible to us every time the clock strikes 9 a.m. or 6 a.m. for that matter. And this getting together and deciding that we're going to make this commitment, I think, will save lives. We won't know their names, but it'll save lives. And I think doing this sort of thing makes our lives much more worthwhile as well. So I just really appreciate all of your being here today. And Walter, thank you. The Aspen Institute, as you know, is one of the extraordinary places in America where people come together and sit together and think together about big issues and try and determine, how do we fix these things? How do we make this a better place? With respect to Indian nations, let's begin making it a better place with their children. That's what this is about. So thank you very much. God bless you all.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Senator.